It is so strange that we cannot be together this evening as we begin our Rosh HaShanah service and the celebration of these high holy days. And while we stand here alone in this sanctuary, we feel the sanctity of this place, the holiness of this moment, and the connection that exists between us, extending from here into all of your homes. I feel your presence and connection, even though we are physically apart. With no walls to hold us in, our community has grown wide enough so that we cannot run out of seats. We will not be limited by the physical, and we have the opportunity to welcome everyone in. For these festive days and at this time, our synagogue is not simply this building with its walls. It extends to include all of your homes, and most importantly, all of you. We are told a story of a village in Europe. A wealthy family wanted to give the community a gift, and so they built a synagogue. Throughout the construction, no one was allowed to see it. And on the day of the grand opening, the villagers were excited to see the beauty of the new synagogue and to step inside. As they stepped into it, they marveled at the building. They were in awe of the beautiful ark, and they could see that no expense had been spared in creating a beautiful synagogue for them. Suddenly, one girl spoke up. "Wait a minute. Where are the lamps? It's really quite dark in here. How will the synagogue be lit?" The family who had built the synagogue pointed to brackets in the walls and then gave each family a lamp, which they were to bring with them each time they came to services. And the mother said, "Each time you are here, the place where you are seated will be lit. Each time you are not here, the place will be dark." It should remind each of you that you have a light that is necessary for our community, that you have a light to illuminate us all, and that when your light is missing, we see the darkness. Tonight, all of you have received candle holders in which 2 tea lights can be lit alongside your festive candles for the beginning of the holiday. Even though we cannot see them, we experience the light of knowing at this moment that throughout our community, the same candles are being lit. The same flames will shine, and the same glow will illuminate us and our families. We share in this experience. And then, hopefully in the near future, when we can return to this building to pray in person as a full community, together we will bring those candles with us, and we will share in the light that each of us uniquely possesses, so that the light of our sanctuary extends to our home, and the light of our homes encompasses our synagogue. We begin our service on page 10. Creation's brightest light, the mystics say, was hidden at the dawn of time. But on this sacred night, this night of hope and joy, a glimmer of that light is here. In candles' flame, in children's eyes, in eyes aglow with wisdom's light, it shines in the faces of the ones we love, in grateful hearts, in tears of loss. It lives in memories of goodness and in our own desire to do right, to try again, to build anew, to ask forgiveness and make peace. We enter this new year and look upon the beauty of these lights. So may the days of awe renew the light within us. We invite all of you at home to also light your Rosh HaShanah candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat v'shel Yom Tov. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higionu lazman hazeh.
We turn to page 15. We rise and face towards the east.
Tikehu v'chodesh shofar ba'kesed liyom chageinu ki chok l'Yisrael hu mishpat l'Elohei Yaakov.
At the new moon, at the full moon, for our feast day, sound the shofar, for that is the law of Israel, the way of the God of Jacob. Hallelujah b'teika shofar, praise God with the blast of the shofar. Baruch atah Adonai, shomea kol truat amo Yisrael, barachamim. Tekiah. We turn now to page 19. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Yehi ratzon shenizkeh levirchotecha, bishnat 5,781, Elohei olam, barech otanu ve'et kol beit Yisrael, b'chidush yameinu, b'simcha u'v'shalom, b'nechama u'v'ometz lev, b'chilutz atzmot u'v'ruach etana. Yehi pri Safatenu mekubal v'ratzui milfanecha. Bifros HaShanah HaChadasha, la'ad modim anachnu lach al matnat hachayim. Our God and God of our ancestors, may we know your blessings in the year 5781, Eternal One. Bless us and the whole house of Israel with renewed life, happiness and peace, comfort and courage, resilience and strength. May the words of our heart be acceptable to you in the new year that stretches before us. We are forever grateful for the gift of life. We continue on page 20 with Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
If you'll please be seated, we turn to page 23. Bless Adonai, who spins day into dusk. With wisdom watch the dawn gates open. With understanding let time and seasons come and go. With awe perceive the stars in lawful orbit. Morning dawns, evening darkens, darkness and light yielding one to the other, yet each distinguished and unique. Marvel at life, strive to know its ways, seek wisdom and truth, the gateways to life's mysteries. Wondrous indeed is the evening twilight.
Umavir yom, umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uben laila, Adonai tzivaot shemo, El Chai v'kayam, tamid imloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hamariv aravim.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta. Love beyond all space and time. Your love enfolds your people, Yisrael. We receive it in your teaching. your gift of Torah, sacred obligations, discipline, and law. So let us speak these teachings when we lie down and rise up, and find joy forever in your Torah and mitzvot. They are the very essence of our life, ours to ponder and study all our days. May we never lose or be unworthy of your love.
כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
By walking, I found out where I was going. By intensely hating, how to love. By loving, whom and what to love. By grieving, how to laugh from the belly. Out of infirmity, I have built strength. Out of untruth, truth. From hypocrisy, I wove directness. Almost now I know who I am. Almost I have the boldness to be that man. Another step, and I shall be where I started from. We continue now with Micha Mocha.
Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha Mocha nedar v'kodesh, Noratilot osefele, Malchutecha
as it is Shabbat, we continue now with V'shamru.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
We turn to page 40 for Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חון וביום חון, ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן, יהי שמי רבם מבורך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה, בריחו לילה לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירון בעלמא ואמרו אמן.
We rise now as we are able for the Amidah, beginning on page 42.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha, eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, הכל, בזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני. מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיים איתי אתה רב להושיע. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיים איתים ברחמים רבים, סובך נופלים וחולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. בחמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך מביט ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים.
אתה kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, ukdoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. We continue silently now through page 71, using the words of prayer or poetry found here, or the words of your own heart. Take your time and be seated as you conclude your prayer.
ולא יירא אדוני לי, ולא יירא אדוני לי, ולא יירא אדוני לי, ולא יירא. בידו אפקיר רוחי, בעת אישן ואירא, ואם רוחי גוויעתי, אדוני
We rise now and continue with Avinu Malkeinu on page 76. Avinu Malkeinu, Ein lanu melech ela ata.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, you alone are our sovereign.
Avinu Malkeinu, lema'ancha rachem aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, for your sake show us mercy.
Avinu Malkeinu, asei imanu lema'an shemecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name.
Avinu Malkeinu, shalach refuah shlema lecholei amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, bring healing and wholeness to the ill among us.
Avinu Malkeinu, kara roa gazar dainenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, allay the harshness of the decree against us.
Avinu Malkeinu, kutvenu besefer geula vishua.
Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of redemption and renewal.
Avinu Malkeinu, zochrenu bezicharon tov lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, remember our goodness and call it to mind.
Avinu Malkeinu, aseh lema'ancha v'hoshienu.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake and save us.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatonu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu,
In my house these last 6 months, alongside social isolation, concerns about family, running out of our favorite salsa, and managing full-time professional responsibilities while also parenting, the themes of the pandemic have been Legos, monsters, and fantasy books. My children have spent much of this pandemic time building elaborate creations that have taken over entire rooms in our house, filling volumes with drawings of ferocious beasts, and listening to the audiobooks of the Percy Jackson series on an endless loop since March. Our home often feels like we're living in Where the Wild Things Are, with the wild rumpus already underway. Among the magical tropes of the book and of the books and movies that we inhabit, destiny, coming of age while fighting demons, and so on, there's a running issue for the characters of things needing to be hauled around. We all know Mary Poppins' magical carpet bag, for instance, from which she pulls out everything she owns, including a wall mirror and a floor lamp. Meanwhile, in the Percy Jackson series, Percy has a ballpoint pen that turns into a full-length monster fighting sword when you take the cap off, and this ballpoint pen is impossible to lose. If he throws it away, it will always end up lightweight and capped back in his pocket. In contrast to these things that are easy to tote around, even though they should be weighty, in the Lord of the Rings books, Frodo is responsible for carrying a small ring that can fit onto someone's finger, but that gets heavier and heavier the closer it gets to its own destruction. In each case in these books, the characters need to carry things that should be bulky but end up manageable, or that should be light but end up almost too heavy to bear. You can imagine the author in each case knowing that it will be necessary for the characters to bring items with them from point A to point B, and then having to make a decision about how to convey what the load of those burdens actually feels like, separate from their physical size and weight. The handy thing about fantasy literature is you can always create the object you need to suit the metaphor. As we go on our own journeys, what we carry too is always connected to the weight we feel as we carry our load, which is only rarely about actual physical bulk. I remember being on a weekend trip with my family when I was in high school, when my parents joked that we had more with us for that one weekend, changes of clothes and shoes, books, binders, board games, craft projects, than their grandparents had with them when they first sailed to America. In our time, we are used to being able to carry around a lot. We've gone in the past few decades alone, from lugging bags by hand to now having ultra-lightweight suitcases with expandable compartments and 360-degree spinner wheels. However, during this time period, when most of us aren't going anywhere that requires a suitcase, many of us are finding that the small or even invisible burdens we are carrying hold an enormous amount of weight. In the last week or so, I have had 3 different people from totally different parts of my life tell me about how they are currently trying to carry without enough hands to do so. One friend wrote, "There was this time a few years ago I stepped off the train and onto the platform. It was raining and I couldn't carry my lunch, my umbrella, and my coffee, so I had to put down the coffee. It's what life feels like all the time right now. Juggling my kids, their schooling, social emotional needs, their food intake, and just all the general stuff, and my job, and my marriage, and my household, and my self-care, and my relationships with everyone. But unlike that day in the rain, there is nothing I can put down and leave behind." Another person was telling me about the queue of podcasts on her phone filled with moving stories about racial history, the environment, personal tales of pain and transformation, all of which she knows should influence the choices she makes in the world. "I know I'm supposed to absorb all these things," she said, "but how can I carry them all?" The transformation of luggage over the past decades, along with the added speed we've come to rely on through phones in our pockets, movies and goods orderable online, everything rememberable in our electronic files on our laptops and tablets, has meant that we are all used to being able to carry a lot with very little added weight. But this pandemic and all the crises brought to light within it reveal that we still only have the same number of hands we've always had. There is a lot to carry right now, and 360-degree spinner wheels don't always help. Whether what we are carrying is the burden of loneliness of many months sustained without others' human touch, the burden of grief over loved ones we have not been able to properly mourn, the burden of concern for those we love who are not reachable from across town or across the country, the burden of jobs that fill too much space or not enough in this current model, the burden of caring for our children and supervising their education while still carrying other professional responsibilities, the burden of worrying about every sneeze and fever, the burden of worrying about the state of our country, of what is happening to people in the world we don't even know, the burden of feeling our own places of privilege in society, the burden of worrying what will happen in November and beyond, the burden of not being able to fix it all. We are carrying so much, and every day there is another thing to carry without feeling like it's possible to put anything down. In the story from the Torah that we will read during the main morning service tomorrow, we hear about Hagar, who did put something down when she could carry no more. Hagar was Sarah's servant, not part of the special lineage that Abraham and Sarah were trying to start, just a side character. And when Sarah grew jealous of Hagar, she sent Hagar and her young son away, carrying only bread and water on her shoulder along with the boy. Hagar walked in the wilderness until her water skin was empty. The lighter her possessions grew, the heavier her burden became. In carrying that young child and the empty water skin, she was carrying far more than her shoulders could bear. At last, she could carry no more. She set the boy down, her own small son, under a bush and walked off to sit a distance away. Because this is a biblical story, and because it's the kind of biblical story that is focused on faith and trust and seeing the bounty that is right before you, of course what ends up happening is that God hears the boy crying and sends a divine messenger to intervene. The messenger, perhaps an angel, perhaps just a stranger walking by, asks, "What troubles you, Hagar?" Hagar lifts her eyes and sees a well of water that she had been blind to before. She is saved. The boy is saved. The water skin is full and heavy once again, and with it, Hagar's burden becomes light, and the boy grows up strong in the wild place. I share this story tonight not because I think that we will open our own eyes and see a magical solution to the burdens we are currently carrying. We do not have a Mary Poppins bag for our current loads. I do not think there is a well that we are just too blind to see that will supernaturally, instantly nourish us and our society out from under our strain. But I do notice that in the Torah's story, Hagar does not open her eyes all on her own. There is a key to the story in the child crying and being heard. There is a key in there being another being there who asks Hagar to name her troubles. There is a key in Hagar's willingness to open her eyes and lift the boy up again, even while she is feeling weak and hopeless and afraid. We are each carrying tremendous burdens right now, and the hardest part is that so many of us are carrying them alone, unsure of what we can possibly put down. We may feel that we shouldn't burden others with our concerns because we know that they have burdens too. We may discount our own load, thinking that it is not as heavy as the loads being hefted by others, while meanwhile we are slowly being crushed under the weight. In a 1,000-year-old text from medieval Spain, Bachya ibn Pakuda wrote the book of instruction, Chovot HaLevavot, Duties of the Heart. In it, he expounds on how we can use the precept of Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your fellow as yourself, to help us join with others for furthering the general welfare, such as plowing or harvesting, buying and selling, and other societal matters. He writes, "Let one apply in this the following analogy. A group of people travel to a distant land on a difficult journey. They need to stop at several stops along the way, and they have many animals loaded with heavy loads. The men are few. Each one has many animals he must unload and reload frequently. If they help each other in loading and unloading, and their desire is for the peace of all and delight in each other's burden, and so they equally share the load of helping each other, they will reach the best results. But if their opinions differ and they do not agree to one plan, and each one exerts to further only his own interests, most will become exhausted. It is on us now to share the load, not because we don't each have a burden of our own, but because it is only by sharing and loading and unloading the burdens on us all that we can manage all that we are carrying together. The way not to have to leave your coffee cup at the train station in the rain is if someone passing by can shelter you under their umbrella while you take a sip. Or, in a more physically distanced example for our time, if we can be each other's messengers, passing the work of being angels for each other back and forth. Listening for when someone is crying out and waiting with them, whether by phone or mask, until they are ready to see the wells of water that can sustain them. Noticing in others and in ourselves what the burdens feel like they weigh, and honoring that their weight may be larger or smaller today than they appeared on first glance. Allowing ourselves to notice what we are carrying and trusting that if we set it down for a time, that may be exactly what we need in order for help to appear. Allowing ourselves to be patient with others as they realize the burdens that they are carrying too, and looking for ways together to share in the load. I would wish for each of us in this new year that the burdens we are carrying might shrink easily to the size and weight of a ballpoint pen in our pockets, and that it could be that easy to uncap them and fight off the monsters of our time with a gallant sword in hand. But instead, this Rosh Hashanah, it is truly my wish for all of us that we honor the fact that what we are carrying is indeed heavy, and that it is our burden to share. May we increase in our capacity to understand our own load and the loads of others. May there be blessings that ultimately come from this load, and may we too grow strong in the wild place. Shana Tova and Shabbat Shalom.
We rise now for Kiddush on page 79.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'am ורוממנו מכל לשון, וקדשנו במצוותיו. ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה את יום השבת הזה, ואת יום הזיכרון הזה. יום זיכרון תדעו זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי באנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל, מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל, מקדש השבת בישראל, ויום הזיכרון. ברוך אתה אדוני L'chaim.
We rise now as we are able for Aleinu on page 82.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, לתקן עולם במלכות שדי ונאמן והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
The poet Laura Gilpin writes, "These things I know, how the living go on living, and how the dead go on living with them, so that in a forest even a dead tree casts a shadow, and the leaves fall one by one, and the branches break in the wind, and the bark peels off slowly, and the trunk cracks, and the rain seeps in through the cracks, and the trunk falls to the ground, and the moss covers it, and in the spring the rabbits find it and build their nest inside the dead tree so that nothing is wasted in nature or in love." We turn now to our words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 90. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divarach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chayeh dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'yizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudshah b'richu. Le'ela ule'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. The first act in creation was the creation of light. And the way that the Torah describes that incredible burst of energy, that scattered light across our universe, is that it was created through words, vayahi or. Our stories say that the light of creation is scattered through our world for us to gather and bring together, to heal our world of its brokenness and pain, through reuniting the unique sparks that each of us may find along our own journeys and in our own places. Tonight, we are far apart, but we are joined with each other by these glowing screens, these gifts of radiating color that bring us together from sanctuary to sofa, to kitchen table to bedroom across our towns near and far. We are here in our brokenness, in need of healing ourselves, in need of comfort, longing for the presence of those who are not next to us tonight. But we are here too in this glowing light of hope and repair, a wonder of creation itself. These high holy days are like no other, but we journey them together. Shana tova umatuka. May this year bring blessing, sweetness, joy, and goodness to you, to those you love, and to us all. Please join us in singing Adon Olam on page 94.
Adon Olam Hashem Allah, Haidini, 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 B'Terem Kol Yisir Nivra, Haidini, 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 Be'ez Asor V'Chesor Kol, Haidini, 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 Azadel Shmo Nivra, Haidini, Haidini,
Ve'acharei kichlot hakol, levado yimloch nora. Ve'hu haya, ve'hu hoveh, ve'hu yiyeh v'tifara.
Adon Olam Hashem Allah, Haidini, 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 B'Terem Kol Yisir Nivra, Haidini, 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 Be'ez Asor V'Chesor Kol, Haidini, Azadel Shmo Nivra,
Ve'hu echad v'ein sheni, leham shilo lehachbira. Ve'li reishit, ve'li tachlit, ve'lo ha'oz ve'ha'misra.
Adon Olam Hashem Allah, Haidini, 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 B'Terem Kol Yisir Nivra, Haidini, 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 Be'ez Asor V'Chesor Kol, Haidini, Azadel Shmo Nivra,
Ve'hu eli v'chad go'ali, v'tzoch eli v'yetzara. Ve'hu nisi v'manos li, minat kotzi b'yom yikra.
Hashem Allah, Haidini, 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 B'Terem Kol Yisir Nivra, Haidini, 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 Be'ez Asor V'Chesor Kol, Haidini, Azadel Shmo Nivra,
Biyado afkin ruchi b'eit ishan v'im aram v'im ruchi geviyati Adonai li v'lo ira.
Shana Tova.